I fell in love with No Man's Sky as soon as I saw the first reveal trailer over 7 years ago now. And while it didn't live up to the expectations on release, it has managed to make a comeback and is now a completely different experience than what we originally saw. But is it good now? Let's see. No Man's Sky was developed by a small team in Hello Games, helmed by Sean Murray, but gained a lot of media attraction leading up to its release, helped by Sony, who heavily marketed the game as well. The game initially promised an enormous procedurally generated world where players would travel between over 18 quintillion planets, making it such a large game that for any one player to travel to every possible planet, it would take them years, if not a lifetime, to do. The game also promised heavy differences between each of these planets, with a vast array of different looking creatures and environments, with the trailers and gameplay showcasing worlds with dynamic events, varied creatures, and a truly breathtaking atmosphere and environment, helped by the 70s synth-esque art style that the team went for, reminiscent of old sci-fi movies. Sean Murray also stated in the lead up to the game that although it would be nearly impossible for players to meet each other, regardless, multiplayer would be supported in No Man's Sky, allowing for players to meet each other if they did find a way to cross paths. Sadly though, many of this wasn't the case. The game came out on 9th of August 2016 to less than favourable reviews, with many features promised in the pre-release marketing simply being absent from the game at launch, such as any multiplayer capabilities, barely any dynamic events, whether on planet or even ships flying about in space, and very similar creatures on nearly every planet. While the game was fun for a short time, in my own opinion, the lack of any large story and anything to do besides repetitive mining and flying just from planet to planet, many players, including myself, were left outraged at how underdeveloped the game was, especially considering how much was promised in the lead up. All of this led to Sean Murray and his team going radio silent for 2 years before coming back to announce that they plan to make significant changes to No Man's Sky and bring it further in line with what the players envisioned and what was promised to them initially. Since release, the game has had many updates, all helping to improve the experience of the game and make it better all round. Starting with the Foundation update, Hello Games added the start to the base building mechanics, as well as an introduction to freighters, with the team promising to make a lot more updates to the game in the future. I'll show a list of the updates on the screen now, but there are way too many for me to go over in this video. Definitely not enough to do the game and the work that's been put into it justice. Now, within the game, you can do a lot more than mine and fly. There is now fully fledged base building, buying and managing freighters and frigates to go on expeditions, planetary vehicles, better world regeneration with more flora and fauna variants, more game modes like survival, expeditions and creative mode, changes to the UI to make it more streamlined, variants of ships and the multi-tools with a class system and rare exotic variants, with even living ships in recent updates, as well as a fully fledged story quest, which is more streamlined and acts as a more full-fledged tutorial to the game and adds a lot more intrigue into this world and this galaxy. Now that we have all that out of the way and the stage is set, we can finally get into a large portion of what the game entails. Also happens to be why I love it, and that's planet exploration, coupled with the ship flying that, while a touch hard to master initially, once you do get the grasp of it, you can truly enjoy the worlds you visit, both while strolling through space, over and around planets, and going further into walking or swimming as needed through these strange unexplored worlds, where you can find any manner of mysteries and new things to look at, find, and just experience. This is the game's bread and butter, where you can just start the game up, sit back, relax, and explore the unknown worlds. And it's just incredible. The other thing I love about the game is the base building mechanics that offer the game a great amount of variety from the usual planetary exploration. With a quest associated to building a home, turning your base from a simple box on a random planet to a full-blown area of operations that you can come back to as a place to relax after your travels, and where you can go about making credits and upgrading your kit as you progress. These areas where you can build up and manage a base of operations are one of my favourite parts of games as a whole. And the way in which No Man's Sky does it, with the freedom it gives you to make what you please, alongside NPCs who join you within your home base, offering a specific yet important new branch to building the base up, simply make it even better. So combat is a funny one for me, and my primary gripe comes with the on-land combat when you're on a planet's surface, rather than the ship combat. The main issues lie in the fact that the game isn't built around combat in this way, so fighting sentinels tends to be nothing more than a nuisance and a chore, which isn't helped by some planets having heavy sentinel activity, which can make traversing those planets a big chore in itself. But it is a functional system and gets the job done, so I won't complain too much. But in regards to flying combat within the ships, it tends to be either really fun and intense, or a slow painful death. But this largely comes down to some ships being slow hunks of metal in combat, while others have a good turning circle that once you have mastered it, you can fully enjoy that side of combat. Alongside that, I have one other issue with the game as it is, and that's the way the main quest is structured, at least at the start. Many of those that I've seen play the game for the first time, or even when I initially returned to the game post the overhauls that happened, I find the starting quest to be a bit confusing, as sometimes it doesn't clearly state what you have to do, and can switch the quest line over so you don't know what you're meant to do next. I find this isn't as bad once you know how to navigate the menus and select the right quest, but it is still a nuisance nonetheless. So since the game is in a stage of development, if you could say that, I personally think some additions to the game would be greatly beneficial, and most importantly a lot of fun. While I don't expect large-scale updates like these, I do think they would be really cool regardless. So the game features the three main races, the Viking, the Geek, and the Korvax, as well as then travelers or player characters. These three races are all unique and different with varying philosophies and cultures, so I think that if we had the opportunity to find their home planets and systems, while guided by an overarching quest tying it all together, it would be amazing. So imagine with me, if you will, an entire planet, the birthplace of these races, that you can land down on and see and experiences that race's culture and customs firsthand. From roaming the streets of large built-up urban areas, to finding important lore on how these races establish space travel, and even potentially buying a home on these planets as a sort of mini-base. I think there's a lot of potential in this, and while I know it would go against the procedurally generated aspect of the game, it'd be bloody awesome. So much like my previous idea for a homeworld for each of the game's races, I think a hub world for player characters would be amazing as well. Say it's a Coruscant-esque world that players can buy land on and build bases in, being able to be next to other players and visit friends or communities that gather together in large numbers. While the game does feature the anomaly, which acts like a hub area, an entire planet of this would be amazing. I understand that undertakings like both of these ideas would be probably as much work for the developers as the entire game has been to this point. I do think they would be amazing opportunities that more quests and content could be built off of, if done right however. So, after all these updates, I can safely say, it's better after the patches. Much like other no longer spoken about titles. But anyway. The game is now fun to play, beautiful to explore, and a much more improved experience than what we were given initially. Hopefully I convince you to give the game another go, and if you do play No Man's Sky, let me know what you would like to see in later updates. I'd love to hear about them. Also, if you want to join in the conversation in a more personal way, you can come over and find me on Twitch. I will have the links in my description below, and also the Discord. But anyway guys, hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later. Peace.